All right, folks, Bill Cosby yesterday, of course, was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison. Last night, spent the night in a state prison. Right as we speak, he's at the Phoenix State Prison, about 30 miles outside of Philadelphia. Now, of course, the 81-year-old Cosby was transferred from the Montgomery County Jail to that particular prison because the Montgomery County Jail was unable to care for him and handle him because he is blind. Of course, he was sent to prison after being convicted for drugging and sexually assaulting Temple University basketball coach Andrea Constant at his home outside of Philadelphia in 2004. And as we said, he has been moved to that particular facility. It's not been decided if that's where he will remain. He may be moved to another prison, but he is at this particular facility now where they have a prison hospital to care for him. Now, this morning on the Tom Joyner Morning Show, I talked to his two publicists, of course, Wyatt and Ebonee Benson. They strongly defended him and also shared with us exactly what happened leading up to Cosby going to court, as well as what took place in the aftermath of him being sentenced to prison. Here's that conversation.
Was Bill Cosby, when he left home, did he believe that he would be headed to prison? Was he prepared for that?
Good morning, Roland. And first, thanks for having us on your show. Yes, Mr. Cosby was prepared. He's been prepared now for 34 months because he shouldn't have never been there. This was a miscarriage of justice. So he had prepared himself. He didn't feel that he was going to get any special treatment because of how this judge has acted towards him and this district attorney. So he was prepared.
Ebonee, that particular moment when the judge said it is time for justice to be served, and then he said 3 years in the course of the 10 years, which means that he will have to serve at least 3 years before eligible for parole. The New York Post is reporting that Bill Cosby was laughing with the two of you as well as other folks in the courtroom. Was that the actual case?
Yes, sir, it was. Again, he has been prepared for this since this began. He's known what he's been facing with the injustices in Montgomery County, and we knew that it could go one of two ways. Either they were going to allow him to stay out while he appeals, or they were going to set the sentence in a time frame that he would not be able to stay out during his appeal. So again, he's held his head high the entire time, and he's strong. His spirits are very strong.
Many people have said that obviously yesterday that but before the sentencing, Bill Cosby could have had something to say to the court. Some say that that's when you express remorse or you at least apologize. Did he give any consideration to doing that before the judgment was rendered?
His decision has always been to not say anything. They was going to misquote him and misconstrue his words no matter what he said. It wasn't going to make a difference if he said something. The judge's mind was already made up. Their mind was made up 3.5 years ago that they were going to throw the book at this man with no evidence, no proof, allegations that surfaced from other distractors. And they used those to bring him in along with a campaign ad that the district attorney ran, a Willie Horton style ad said, if you elect me, I'll bring Bill Cosby to justice. When he settled out for $3.8 million, and they told him charges would never be brought against him. So Mr. Cosby, we knew how they were playing. This was one of the most racist and sexist trials that we've ever seen in the history of the United States.
Ebonee,
also, Mr. Cosby I'm sorry, I was just
go ahead.
Excuse me.
No, you go ahead.
Just speaking of that word remorse, you don't show remorse when you maintain your innocence, and Mr. Cosby has maintained that.
There's been a very, very aggressive defense of Bill Cosby. Even after the mistrial, Andrew, when the statement was read by Camille Cosby, highly critical of this judge as well. Legal observers said that was a bad idea because this judge was always going to be over the second mistrial, and even witnessing the hiring of a former prosecutor to investigate. Explain why the Cosbys were so aggressive in going after the judge, knowing full well he was going to be the one who was going to determine this sentence.
Well, because this judge and this DA was swayed by public opinion. And they knew that they were going with what these distractors wanted. They were going with what Gloria Allred wanted. This had nothing to do with justice. And I think as a person who has been around for 50-plus years, like the Cosbys, they've seen it all. Mr. Cosby said something really significant and profound to me. He said, I sat with Martin Luther King Jr., I sat with Malcolm X, I sat with Nelson Mandela. He said, I met people who were dogs in the 60s, bit off their prostate. He said, what do I have to be afraid of? They're going to do whatever they want to do to me no matter what. This is one of the greatest civil rights icons for 50-plus years. And they did not like the fact that Mr. Cosby was using his celebrity, his human being to humanize all races, all genders, all religions. And that's what they did not like. So this was more personal, and this was a vendetta against him because of the platform that he stood on. The revolution is in the home. Well, I wasn't comparing him to Jesus. I was just saying how he has been crucified, in the media and public opinion. And I specifically said at the end of my statement, I said I'm not comparing him to Jesus. What I am saying is that they crucified black men across this country. Look how young black boys are being killed every day. Look how they're using this judicial system to go after black men like Mr. Cosby. This is bigger than Mr. Cosby. This is about every black and brown man in America. You look at this guy, Kavanaugh, and how he's been protected, and you have people saying that, hey, there's no evidence for 30, 20 years ago. Due process. And the president of the United States is protecting him, and it's okay. And they're saying the FBI should not come in and investigate because there's no evidence. Well, what about Bill Cosby? It shows us that the judicial system is truly black and white.
Speaking of that, obviously this case was specific to Andrea Constand. They allowed others to also testify in the second trial. But folks are also saying, look, that you've had allegations that have been made against Bill Cosby, not one, not two, not three, more than 60, and a third of them have been black women. And so, Ebonee, I'll ask you first, making reference to Emmett Till or others, folks are saying, wait a minute, this wasn't a case of just white women accusing Bill Cosby. These are also black women who also accused Bill Cosby. Your response?
I will start with it was majority of white women that accused Bill Cosby. There were a few black women that came out, but these are also accusations. These are all, as you said, this is because I said it, it has to be true. When you compare it to Emmett Till, we're not talking about the number of women. We're talking about the principle that someone can say it happened and then you are now destroyed because of it. Physically for Emmett Till, publicly and in the media for Mr. Cosby.
How is Miss Cosby doing?
Yeah.
Oh, Mrs. Cosby is, as Mr. Cosby says, when Mrs. Cosby is at the helm, we all have great posture. She's strong, she's fighting, and we're working on appeals now to get him out of this. And we filed motions, and we will be visiting him this morning.
And real quick, do you know if he's in general population or is he in isolation?
We have no clue. We will find out when we visit him this morning how where they're holding him.
All right, folks. Also, I was just texting with Andrew Wyatt. So a couple of things. Radar Online reported that when Bill Cosby got to the prison, a hot dog was sort of thrown at him, and he was complaining about the food. And they also reported that he was on this conference call talking with his wife, saying, "Hey, pull the checkbook out and get me out of here as fast as you can." Wyatt said that's actually a lie. He said they actually talked this morning, not last night. And that he said this morning around 9:30. And Andrew Wyatt said that he told Mrs. Cosby that he's been treated very nicely. People were shocked to see him, but proud to get a chance to meet him. And he also said the two of them will be speaking again in about 30 minutes as well. And so, and relayed that Camille Cosby told him that from that interview that she said, quote, she told him that, quote, "You did a great job focusing on facts." And he said, "Thank you." And all he expects is the truth to be told. And so that's, of course, Andrew Wyatt talking about his client, Bill Cosby, of course, who is in a Pennsylvania state prison as we speak as a result of going to, after going straight there, he wanted to be able, of course, to be allowed to be out on bail pending appeal, but the judge declined.